We're going to be talking all about tenant turnover 101.
There's a lot that you can do to set yourself up for success right from day one, so that when that tenant does turn over, you're ready to rock and roll. First thing that everyone needs to know about prepping for turnover and really listing to lease is that
What's going on YouTube? It's Rebecca Lynn Matheson, aka the Canadian Cottage Girl, and welcome to another episode on the Canadian Real Estate Channel. I am joined today by Hart. He is the co-founder of Rent Panda, which is a rental platform where landlords can find the tools and resources that they need to go from a listing to a lease. So Hart, welcome to the channel today.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca. Exciting to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I know we've got a juicy topic for you guys today. We're going to be talking all about tenant turnover 101, and make sure that you do not miss a minute of this, because at the end of the video, there's going to be more information and some golden nuggets that you don't want to miss out on. And if you guys haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to the channel just down below and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss a single video coming out of the Canadian Real Estate Channel. Also, make sure that if you like today's video that you smash that like button and comment in the comment section below. So, Hart, again, welcome to the channel. Let's get right into today's topic.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, the first thing that everyone needs to know about prepping for turnover and really listing to lease is that listing your property starts before you list your property. And it's about that turnover of that tenant into the new tenant. But really, if we back up all the way to the moment your first tenant comes on board, or the tenant that's currently in your place comes on board, there's a lot that you can do to set yourself up for success right from day one, so that when that tenant does turn over, you're ready to rock and roll. And you may only have 24, 48 hours at turnover. So a lot of that prep work needs to start when your previous tenant actually comes on board. So the first thing that you need to do is, when you're signing that lease, or even when you're building the lease before your tenant turns over, is really to make sure that you've got all your clauses in place. And so the Ontario Standard Lease is a great document, but you need an awesome lease appendix to be tacked onto that. And that lease appendix should have very, very clear clauses on what happens at turnover. So, if a tenant has decided to paint the place certain paint colors, who's in charge of painting that back? Or do they have to pay for the paint to be painted back? Who's in charge of the cleaning of the place, and what state should the place be put in when that tenant needs to turn over? And then finally, are move-in inspections something that are standard? And do move-in inspections need to be signed off on? And we would always say yes. So you should have both a move-in inspection as well as a move-out inspection, and make sure that you're really setting that tenant up to know that that move-out inspection is going to occur and what is expected at the move-out inspection. And really, it's about setting the tenant up for success, letting them know that here are all the clauses within your lease, and here's what I expect when you do finally move out, whether it's in a year or 2 years or even 10 years, you always have that lease to come back to. And so really, that's step one on making sure the tenant knows from a legal perspective what's set up for them for when turnover happens. And the next piece is really all about communication. And we can't stress this enough. We talk to landlords every single day about open lines of communication with their tenant, but that really comes to fruition when a tenant turns over, and you may walk into that unit and see 12 or 15 small repairs that should have been made throughout the duration of that 2-year tenancy. And typically what happens is that if you have a good relationship, but maybe not a direct line of communication every week or a couple of weeks, that tenant doesn't want to bother you. You're a great landlord, you have a great place. They just don't want to bother you with a little dripping sink, or a little bit of water that's come out of the washing machine, or a light fixture that's not working. But then when it comes to tenant turnover, you've got a list of 12, 15, 20 things that all need to be fixed, and you've only got 24 hours to turn that place around for your next tenant. And so really making sure that you have systems set up so that your current tenant knows that reporting repairs is not a bad thing. As a landlord, it's a really good thing to get a small repair request as opposed to a massive repair request or a catastrophe. And so creating a system Rent Panda has one where if you go online and you're a landlord, you can actually have your tenant report repair requests to you. They have to send pictures, they have to send a description, they have to send when this repair needs to be done by if it is urgent. And really it's about setting them up with a system to report those repairs. It can be a Google Sheet, it can be a text message, it can be an email outline that you provide to them at the beginning, but provide them with some system that really gets them on the same level with you so that they're comfortable reporting those repairs. And then you need to be able to deal with those repairs as well. So just being able to go in by yourself and do them is great, but a lot of landlords are out of town investors or just aren't handy people themselves. And so making sure that you have your go-to list, your power team of contractors, of handyman, of trades to do all of those repairs. And if you are a new landlord that's starting out or a new real estate investor, or maybe you've moved out of town and you don't have anyone because you've done it all yourself in the past, there are services out there that'll give you on-demand quoting, or companies like BidMe or Jiffy, where it's relatively easy to get small repairs done. So make sure that you're arming yourself with the tools to actually do all of those repairs with the systems that you've set up beforehand.
Right. Now, before we dive a little bit deeper into this topic, you mentioned a bit of a timeline here. So we've got a new or maybe a seasoned landlord, and they get notice from their tenant that they have, something that's changed in their life and they intend to move out of the unit. So you come and do that inspection of the unit. And what is the typical timeline that you actually recommend for a landlord to have in order to do that turnover time? Because we're talking about a lot of different scheduling dynamics here with the contractor, with the new tenant coming in, with the old tenant moving out. So what's the typical turnaround time that's recommended or realistic as to what actually happens?
For sure. So if you do have the right systems in place, and we're going to assume you don't have a slew of repairs to be done or a massive bit of work that needs to be done, typically you'll get your 60 days notice from a tenant, and you want to start showing that property or preparing that property for photos and showings right away. And so you want to be able to go in there and do a little bit of an inspection, not your final move-in inspection right away, but just a typical inspection of the place to see if it is in decent shape to be photographed and shown. So by going in there and just doing a walkthrough, you can change furnace filters, you can check fire detectors or whatnot, you can check anything within the place, but really get a chance to go into the unit and see what state it's in. And then you've got some time. So you'll prep your property, you'll start showing it, you'll start photographing it, listing it on various websites and showing it. But the tenant turnover at the end of the day is likely going to happen quite quickly if you don't want to be out a vacancy for a month.
Yeah.
And if you do have everything lined up correctly. And so typically a turnover would be within 24 or 48 hours. And you want to have those key services lined up, like your painters, like your handyman, to come in and do quick upgrades, because most of this can be done within a 24, 48 hour period. And sometimes you'll have a couple of days, or if you're willing to sit on a month's vacancy, you can really take the opportunity to do some upgrades to push your market rent. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. But some of the top upgrades to be done can really be done in a short amount of time. And if your tenant has been there for a few years, push you up to that new market rent and make sure that your place is bringing in that ROI that you should be expecting.
Got it. Okay, you mentioned top upgrades. So what are the things that you really recommend need to be done when you're turning over a rental unit?
For sure. There's three that we always look at, whether, I know you've looked at them recently. I've looked at them recently as a personal landlord with my basement unit. But really you want to talk about paint as number one. We always shy away from the agreeable gray or the contractor taupe. And I think just a really simple white paint finish can not only attract a really good tenant and give a place a fresh, modern vibe, but can make your life or your painter's life easier. So we actually use a Behr product called Whisper White. Anything they tell you about a single coat is complete lies, but Whisper White will allow you within 2 coats to do ceiling, baseboards, trim, walls, all in the same color. You don't want to be cutting, you don't want to be taping, you want to make sure that you can do everything quickly. And you don't want to do the landlord special and just paint over everything, but Whisper white is a good example of a paint color that will allow you to efficiently paint your place. And really that's the first thing that'll give you immediate ROI and really position your place as a standout one. It'll photograph amazingly well, it'll show really well, and it'll bring in your ideal tenant because everyone likes a fresh, clean look. Even if they love eclectic colors, they can envision themselves painting those walls easily. The next thing is lighting. And so lighting is so important when it comes to photography, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And really when it comes to someone walking into your place and feeling at home, the right lighting can give a warm and cozy feeling. It can give a bright and modern feeling. And the worst thing is to walk into a place and see a really old, dated 1970s, 1980 super yellow light. People just won't gravitate towards it, and therefore you won't get your top market rent. So look at Wayfair, look at Home Depot, look at Amazon for some cheap and cheerful modern touches for lighting, and just make sure that you're also putting in the right bulbs. You don't want to put in super yellow bulbs. You want to make sure that everything is bouncing off that whisper white really well. So a nice soft white light is really good to show a place well and to photograph a place well. And then when it comes to a true upgrade, if you've been sitting on a place for a while, or maybe you have a place that you just picked up that is a little bit dated, flooring is the next one where you're really going to get a return on investment. And everyone these days is talking about vinyl plank flooring, and that's the one to go with. And not only is it a good rental option, not only is it relatively cheap, you're not going to put hardwood in there, you're avoiding carpets. But we talk about the three key things that that vinyl plank has, and it's about spill proof, kid proof, and pet proof. And I'll talk a little bit about pet proof later on and in another video, but pet proofing your place will ensure that you can advertise pet friendly, and pet friendly is one of the best ways to get in really good tenants that are really respectful of your place. We've heard a lot of horror stories about pets causing damage, but the very large majority of renters who have pets are going to be good pet owners and therefore good tenants. And they're also going to be searching for pet-friendly places. So in order to make your place stand out at that tenant turnover stage, at the point of time where people are looking for your place, if you put pet-friendly in big and bold in your ad, wherever it ends up being, your place will get noticed and you can charge top dollar rent for a pet-friendly place. The same thing about kid-friendly places. A member of the family is a member of the family, whether they're a pet or a kid. And so people with families are going to be looking for kid-friendly landlords as well as kid-friendly places, because no one wants to deal with a carpet stain or a hardwood floor that gets damaged. It's just as anxiety-inducing to a tenant as it is to a landlord. And really that's about the kid proof and spill proof. And vinyl plank flooring will last forever. It's a really good option. It looks good. And so paint, lighting, and flooring will really be your best bang for your buck. You can get it done within $4,000 or $5,000 depending on the size of your place, and you can really push market rent. I mean, ourselves, we redid our basement apartment. We did paint and lighting. We also ripped out a drop ceiling, which all in all cost us $4,000. And we were able to push our rent $200 a month and really bring in awesome tenants because of it. So those are your three easy ones to go with for sure.
I love that. Now you mentioned whisper white. Do you have a favorite type of flooring that you have as your go-to as well?
I don't. I mean, any luxury vinyl plank will be good. I mean, typically you'll see a lot of soft grays, I would say, in terms of coloring. It'll go well with older kitchens and newer kitchens. It's really good as a complementary color to just a white wall and white ceiling. So just go with those neutral tones. The super dark or super light flooring is generally going to be more polarizing, I would say, but they're all good choices. And really it's about the longevity and durability of the flooring versus the look.
Yeah, love that. Awesome. Okay, what's your next pro tip here? I'm loving these.
For sure. So the next one is really, you've done that move-in inspection when a tenant comes in. You've hopefully done your typical inspections throughout the duration of the place. Your tenant is reporting repairs, and then that tenant has moved out. And what you want to do at day one is clean. So whether you have 24 hours notice to turn over a place or you have a full month, the first thing to do is to clean that place. And the first tip as a landlord that has 1 property or 20 properties is to hire a cleaner. You don't want to be going in there and cleaning a place, because to properly clean a place, it's going to take you 4, 6, 8 hours. And that's for a standard place that's been kept in good condition. and you want to be able to clean before you take photos and definitely before you show a place. So hiring a cleaner, whether it's through a company like Homesy or Molly Maid, or go on landlord groups and ask about, good cleaners within your territory. You want to hire a cleaner to come in there. They'll do it quickly, they'll do it efficiently, and make sure that they're not giving you the rental special, that they're really deep cleaning that place through and through. And a lot of tenants, or a lot of landlords, I should say, will come to us and say, but my tenant is still in the place and it's kind of a mess, so I can't take photos. I'm just going to use old realtor photos, or I'm going to use, quick iPhone photos that I've taken, half hiding as I've walked through the place. And photography is absolutely crucially important. I'll put a pin in that for a little bit later. But when you're talking about cleaning your place, if the tenant is still there, we often advise people to offer a free complimentary cleaning to a tenant who's still in the place, and saying that you're having a professional photographer come by, you're going to be showing the place, and you just want to give the place a little once over. And to clean it, can they please tidy up? And you'll have a professional cleaner on you come in. Sometimes landlords are scared of that because you think that you're telling your tenant that they're messy and that they're a slob. But the reality is most tenants would be fine with someone coming in and fully cleaning their place, especially if you've had a good open relationship throughout the duration of that tenancy. And so don't be afraid to offer up a cleaning service to come in to make sure that your place looks awesome, because a good looking place will photograph well, a good looking place and a clean place will show well, and that will make sure that your next tenant is ideal, that your next tenant is paying top market rent, and that you're getting that ROI again.
Absolutely. Now, let's talk about cleaners just for a second here. You mentioned the rental unit specials. So what is the best way? Communication is key no matter what stage of the game you're at, whether you're communicating with your contractor, whether you're communicating with your tenant, both previous and potential tenants. So how do you communicate effectively with your cleaner to make sure that your unit is actually cleaned properly?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you hit the nail on the head in terms of having a communication system. And for us, it's about making a list and making sure that that cleaning company follows the list. And so don't just say, hey, I want to deep clean. This place is a mess. Or saying, hey, can you really just focus on the bathrooms? Make sure that you go through and you set a precedent for what you want cleaned, and then how you want it cleaned. So if you want the stove pulled out from the wall and cleaned all behind it, make sure that you're writing that down in a list within your kitchen list. So list all of your rooms, list all of the key places that you may think is common knowledge to be cleaned, and really talk to the cleaners when they come in and make sure that they understand that you want a full deep cleaning. And with COVID times right now, it's not hard to articulate that you want the full sanitization and whatnot, but carry that forward no matter what time it is. Make sure that they fully sanitize the place, that they're deep cleaning it all, and that they're following your list item by item. And then at the end of the cleaning, you can leave them for 4, 6, 8 hours to do that cleaning, but come back. Make sure that you're not just leaving them to go and say that they've done the job well. Make sure that you're doing an inspection at the end of that cleaning, and then start to build a relationship with your cleaner. So if you've got multiple properties and you're doing this on the regular, make sure that you understand, or that your cleaner understands exactly what expectation you have, and be willing to pay for it. It may cost you an extra $100 to really do that deep cleaning, but it is going to make a difference when that new tenant walks in and they see a sparkling place that they absolutely fall in love with. And it also sets the precedent for what type of landlord you are. They know that you're a landlord that expects clean, that delivers clean, that has good relationships with their tenant because the place looks immaculate. So really a deep cleaning, the same with a great paint job, is going to say more about yourself as a landlord and about the property.
Definitely appreciate that. Now, so far, all of the things you've talked about have been very much about like how to really set that listing up for success. But how do I know, like, say I want to list my property, where do I price that out? How do you find comparable prices? And a lot of this is about setting boundaries and expectations for your cleaners, setting boundaries and expectations for your tenants. How do you set that expectation in terms of your actual listing and make sure that you're getting the tenants that you want and pricing it accordingly?
Yeah, it's the holy grail question, I would say, that every single landlord asks, us as leasing agents, us as a platform provider. It's really, how do I price my property? And the first question to ask, and you touched on a little bit there, is who is that tenant and what are they going to be willing to pay? And backing up a step further and saying, really, who is the tenant that you want in your place? And who is the tenant that will be attracted to your place? So a lot of landlords make the mistake of saying, my place is for everyone. It's a great 3-bedroom townhome in a great part of town, and it's kind of close to everything, and it'll attract everyone. And then they write really ambiguous ads, and they price their property kind of top of the line from what they've seen everything in the market for, and it sits and no one is inquiring. Or 8 students are inquiring for a 3-bedroom place, or they're just not seeing the right tenant. And identifying the ideal tenant who they would want and who would be attracted to your place specifically is really key. And you want to make sure that if you have a 3-bedroom townhome that's kind of close to everything, identify, is it close to schools? Is it close to parks? Is it close to shopping? And is your ideal tenant really a small young family? Or is it close to bus lines and a university and the downtown core? And is it going to bring in a couple students? And maybe you'll gravitate towards mature students who are in their master's or PhD because it's close to school. But is it, truthfully, ask yourself, is it going to attract students? And that combination of who you want versus what your place is actually going to attract is really going to align on who that ideal tenant is. And then you skew everything towards that ideal tenant.
So in terms of market specificity, do you have any examples of how to price your property? So you mentioned a few things there just about dynamics or kind of like different tenants that you're looking for, whether it be students versus a family with a dog, with kids. So for you, what's an example? So say Guelph or Kitchener, how would you approach something like that as a landlord, or trying to find the right tenant profile or price that property correctly?
Yeah, for sure. So not only do you want to check what the comparables are. If you've got a 3-bedroom townhome in Guelph, you want to check what other 3-bedroom townhomes are going for, but you really want to think about what your ideal tenant will be able to afford, if not your place. And so if you're a 3-bedroom townhome in Guelph, you think will rent for around $3,000 with the crazy market as it is right now, what you want to do is look at other comparables that a tenant could get for $3,000. So could they get a single detached home on the other side of town that has a massive yard as opposed to your smaller yard? Can they go outside of town and look at Cambridge or Kitchener and be able to afford a much larger, 4-bedroom home for the same price? And then once you've looked at what comparables are for $3,000, you want to then dive really deep into the comparables of 3-bedroom townhomes or things within your area. So again, as an example, if you're in the south end of Guelph, you've got a 3-bedroom townhome, you want to look at other 3-bedroom townhomes, you want to look at some of the other 3-bedroom condos that are being built around there, and you want to dive into the MLS system to see what realtors are posting their properties for. Typically, they're going to be on the higher end of the price spectrum for those who enlist a realtor to do the leasing work for them. You want to look at other rental marketplaces. So check Rent Panda for other listings right now that are up that are similar to yours. Check other sites like Facebook Marketplace and like Kijiji. Make sure that you're not falling into any of the scam properties that are posted for $1,200 for a 3-bedroom townhome. And we'll talk about scams in another video and how we dissuade them. And then you want to really dive into some of the data points. So, CMHC and StatsCan and sites like rentals.ca do an analysis of market rent month over month within various cities, but you want to make sure that you're aggregating that data if you are looking that deep into it, because a lot of that is just the data that rentals.ca has about listings on their site, and make sure that you're really doing your homework, because if you're going to be out a couple $100s in monthly rent with the way that the LTV is set up right now and the way that the RTA is set up right now, if you find a great tenant who stays there for 5 or 6 years, you may start to really diminish your return or your cash flowing property in the near future. So just make sure that you're really doing your homework. And if you have no idea what you're doing or you're just starting out, make sure you join Facebook groups and talk to other landlords. Make sure you talk to family and friends and see who's out there. Get yourself a coach or a mentor who's done it before and will help you price that property. Or if you just don't want to do any of it, hire a leasing agent. And I won't sell Rent Panda's leasing agent services too hard, but if you're uncomfortable, it's not a bad thing to enlist the service of a professional or of a coach for your first one or your first 2. And then when you get it under your belt, you can start to do more for yourself, or you realize that you want to be a passive investor and let everyone do that for you and really focus on growing your portfolio.
Love that. Well, Hart, do you have any more pro tips here that you want to add on to how you prepare your property or that tenant turnover 101?
Yeah, I'll add the most important one last, and it's really about photographing your unit. And this is one that we see time and time again with dozens and dozens of properties posted on Rent Panda every day. We see the mistake of landlords not spending enough time and money to properly photograph a rental unit. And when you go to buy and sell a home, you'll see beautiful pictures that have been invested in with lighting and professional photography. And we're not saying you have to, get a professional photographer all the time, but you should bring your photography up in its caliber, because that will set it apart from other rentals on other platforms. It'll really, give notice to your property when tenants are browsing a platform. It'll allow you to charge more for your place because people will fall in love, and it'll give people a true sense of what that place will look like when they come through the door, so they're not surprised at the layout of the place or how a room actually looks. And so there's some really quick key tips that you want to do from a photography perspective. The first one is open up all the blinds and all the windows. Natural light is your friend. You don't necessarily want to turn on all the lights, especially if you've got some yellow lighting in one room and white lighting in another, but use natural light to your advantage. The next thing that you want to do is shoot horizontally. So everyone will pick up their iPhone, got mine right here, of course, and shoot like this. Just turn it sideways. That's all it takes to really get a wide angle lens. And especially with a new iPhone and a new Android, there are wide angle lenses there. So you don't need a DSLR. You don't need to invest in crazy photography gear and lighting. A good iPhone or a good new Android will get an amazing photo for you as long as you shoot horizontally. And then the next thing is shoot from chest height. And so most people, especially us who've actually seen old cameras and are used to old cameras, will think about shooting through a viewfinder and raise a camera up to their eye. But when you shoot from your eye, you actually get a downward perspective on a room, which makes it feel tighter and narrower. And so typically, small bedrooms, small bathrooms will look really bad in those types of photos. So you actually want to shoot from your chest height and then get the widest angle possible. And it's a really stupid comment to make, but obviously you want to shoot as wide as possible, but back yourself up into a wall, back yourself up into a corner. If you're shooting in a bathroom and the toilet is in the way, sit on the toilet or stand in the shower or open a closet door and get in the closet to really shoot as wide as possible. Because typically rooms will always look smaller and narrower in photography. So make sure that you're giving yourself the best chance at an amazing photo. And if you're really uncomfortable with it, you can hire professional photographers. Or again, if you hire a leasing agent, they'll typically get a professional photographer or do it themselves when they've trained themselves in real estate photography, something to look for in a leasing agent. And you'll get really good photos that'll bring good people in. And think about doing video walkthroughs. Again, you can just do it from your cell phone. You can do a really simple video walkthrough and 360 videos. So 360 video cameras are relatively cheap these days. We've got them for all of our leasing agents. And if you do go with a service, make sure that you're getting a 360 video. It doesn't have to be a crazy Matterport like you've seen in the buying and selling world, but just a simple 360 video will allow a tenant to spin around a room and get a sense of a place, which will really, give a sense of home. It'll make them fall in love with the place before they come to see it. And for you as a landlord, it will really cut down on the time of showings. And so a lot of people are coming to a showing just to tire kick, just to kind of see the place and get a feel for the place, because the photography is bad, because there's no videography. And good photos and good videos will save you time driving out to your property, showing people places, dealing with no-shows. Again, we'll talk about it in another video, but it'll really save you time. And so photography is the one where, if you're not going to listen to any of my advice that I've talked about in this video so far, invest in good photography. Teach yourself a little bit, follow these tips, or hire a pro to do it for you, and that'll really make your place shine. And then the final piece there is, if you really want to go above and beyond, if your place is completely empty, for 20 bucks a photo, there are services out there that'll do virtual staging, and that'll really push you up and above. Not necessary, but just kind of a little tip for the end.
Yeah, a little pro tip there.
Yeah.
Well, we've covered a lot in this video. So guys, make sure that you like and comment below your favorite bits, but we've covered how you can upgrade your unit in order to increase market rents, communication with your tenants, make sure you are talking to your tenants, whether or not you should hire a cleaner, which it seems like the answer is yes, you absolutely unanimously should hire a cleaner, how to price your property, outsourcing certain certain elements of the process versus doing it yourself. And also to close off, the best way to photograph your unit. So this is definitely a ton of fantastic information that will absolutely yield you more money in your investment. So do take this advice very seriously. And guys, make sure that if you want to hear any more information like this, that you subscribe down below, turn on that notification bell, and make sure you comment in the comment section below for more topics that you'd maybe like to hear Hart cover on the Canadian Real Estate channel. And Hart, where's the best place for people to actually find you?
Great question. So if you go to rentpanda.ca, it's a simple site where you can list your property for free. You can get all of the tools along the way to message tenants, screen tenants, build leases, book showings, manage your move-in inspections and repairs and notices along the way. And for the more passive investor, also get in touch with us about our leasing services. And I'll drop a little nugget here for anyone that has actually made it to the end of this video in a ramble. But if you mention the code vacancy, either online or when you call us up about leasing services, we'll give you 10% off all of our leasing services. And really just reach out to us on rentpanda.ca, give us a shout. There's contact information there. And we're a small team that's focused on Ontario investing, Ontario landlords. So we're always here to talk to landlords about their issues, their questions, and make sure that they have a great experience.
Awesome. Well, Hart, thanks again for joining us on the Canadian Real Estate channel. I look forward to having you back again for some more killer content here. And guys, make sure again that you reach out to Hart. We've got a little promo code as well, which is a fun little bonus. So thank you for that. So if you guys are curious and maybe do want to outsource some of the work and just you have an expert do that, just hit Rent Panda up. And guys, thanks again for tuning in. Like and subscribe for more, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.